expenses entitled on to employee, provident fund and pension, outstanding interest contributed by the employer, and employer includes deceased employer as well. Now, wage payment. 7th day of the month. And if there are more than 1,000 employees, then the wage shall have to be paid before the 10th day of the month. That is the rule. Terminated employee is entitled to receive the wage earned by him before the expiry of the second working day from the day on which his service has been terminated. That is given under section 5, subsection 2. We also find that as per this act, the company, along in consultation with the employee, can fix any other date, but not later than 7th or 10th as applicable in the act. They can fix it as the first day of the month, or they can fix it at the last day of the month, or second day, or fourth day, whatever. But it would not be later than 7th day if less than 1,000 employees there, and for 1,000 or more employees well before 10th day. Deductions that has to be made, take away the whole wage deductions. No specific definition for deduction is given. However, Act does specify the heads from section 7 to 13 under which deductions can be made. Only those deductions that are authorized by if provided by the organization to the employee, a deduction for amenities and services, deductions for recovery of advances if it was taken as a loan or something of that kind, or festival advances or anything of the similar kind, deduction for the recovery of loan made for the welfare of labor. It can also be deduction for recovery of loans granted for housing, house building, or vehicles, or any other equipments that is there. Deduction for payment to cooperative societies and insurable services that the employees are utilizing. It can also be deduction of income tax, that is compulsory. Deduction under orders of the court. Deduction of contribution to Provident Fund, right? Now, the two types of Provident Fund we know is EPF and CPF. The contribution has to be there, and it stands at 10% of the basic wage minimum. Deduction for anything more is the choice of the employee, but they have got to give it in writing. Deduction for constitution of a welfare fund for employed person and family members. Deduction in respect of fees payable for membership to trade unions or any other association to which an employee has become member. Deduction for payment of insurance premium on or guaranteed bonds. Deduction for recovery of losses of sustained by the railway administration, and deduction for contribution to Prime Minister's National Relief Fund, if any. Now, authorities that is designated under this act is given in the section 14. We find that an act provides for appointment of person to be authorized, authority to hear or decide specific area claims arising out of deduction from wage or delay in payment of wages under section 15. There are three distinct categories of person described as authorities: the presiding officer of the of labor court, any commissioner of the workmen's compensation, or other offices with enterprise as experience as judge of a civil court that is there. Now, claims and appeals are also a part of this. Claim arising out of deduction or delay. Authority under the Act can only adjudicate upon the claim regarding the deduction. The appeal lies against the decision of the authority. We also have the employer can appeal provided the total amount deduction exceeds 300. The authority have all power of the civil court and quasi-judicial process will be followed. Now there are penalties that is to be charged on the employer. Whoever being required under this act to register, maintain or furnish that information if called for by the appropriate government. If they fail to maintain such register, they will be penalized. Willfully refusing or without lawful excuse or neglect. We also find that willfully furnishes information which he knows is false, and so on and so forth. What we find that this act was later amended, and this payment that used to be made in cash was converted to check payment, and later on that check payment was also removed, and now they say the system of direct debit came into force. Recently, the government of India extended it further. They said that instead that the institutions providing wage, those central government institutions, it is the RBI which will provide. For the state government, it will be the state exchequer, and for the private organization, deductions, the payment has to be made by direct debit in the accounts of the employee. Now, what we find that if this is the area through which these payments are being made, let us look at as to what happens in the pay commission that came into existence. Anybody who has got any idea of pay commission? No.
So till now we were following seventh pay commission in government units.
Oh, that is
So
there. We
pay
will go through.
commission is basically a government scheme through which government has extended the pay scale of their existing employees.
Mhm, mhm. I'll have to relog. There is some problem with my computer. I'll just exit and relog. Right? I'll exit and relog.
Sir, you're not audible.
Am I audible now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. There is some problem with the presentation. Stop presenting. This is 7th pay commission, 6th pay commission is gone somewhere, right? Is it visible now?
Yes, sir, visible.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
there were certain members, that's a story of past. The salient feature was of the act was, sorry, sixth pay commission was that it was to be implemented from 1st of January 2006, although it came in 2008. The implementation of allowance specifically from the date of recommendations are accepted, modified by the government, because allowances were to be paid from 2008. To remove stagnation, introduction of running pay band for all posts in government below the rank of 26,000 fixed was considered. It also talked about total grades reduced from 35 to 22 running across 4 running bands. That was pay band 1 to pay band 4 with distinctive grade pays that was being there. And all grade D categories were to be upgraded to grade C employees, initially as the existing employee to be placed in the pay scale of 1S for the purpose of initial fixation, and group D staff who already possess the minimum qualification of the metric to be placed in pay band 1 with effect from 1/1/2006. It says that the 4th grade employee that we used to call was renamed as multipurpose employee. Now, the new band that came up, we said, is 1S, that was earlier there. And the persons who were put under 1S was these designations: Khalasi, Safaiwala, Gangman 3, and Safaiwala. That was there. We also had BT Khalasi helper, Gangman, and Safaiwala. That was the part of the thing. But in pay band 1, who was to be placed from 1/1/2006, all these artisans grade 3, artisan grade 2, artisan grade 1, and others that were put under this. Pay band 2 was 8,700 to 34,800 was the pay band, and the grade pay started from 4,200 to 5,200. Pre-revised pay of 5,000 to 8,000 and 8,000 to 13,500 were put under this particular grade, and the old designation of S9 to S15 were placed here, and their designations are being given on the right side. We also find that pay band 3 had all new entry of grade A employees. The pay band was 15,600 to 39,100. The grade pay of 5,200 to 8,400 were there, which included pre-revised salary of 8,000 to 13,500 and 16,400 to 20,000 rupees that was there. And the old designation S16 to S26 were part of this particular section. Then we have pay band 4, where majority of officers came up. The pay band was 39,200 to 67,000. And it also had GP of 9,000 to 13,000. Pre-revised was 14,300 to 26,000, and old designation of S28 to S32 was part of it. And then they also talked about an apex scale, 80,000 fixed that was being given, and which was earlier 26,000 fixed, called S33. That is the board members of the companies, or vice that was there. And cabinet secretary equivalent was given 9,000 fixed, and which was 30,000 fixed earlier in S34. Vice chancellor and that other people falls under this particular category. For teachers, of the central universities and the state universities, a separate pay commission was constituted based on the recommendation of Central Pay Commission, and with slight modification that was also implemented in the teaching positions which were there. Now, how was the fixation done? The pay fixation. We find that sixth Central Pay Commission puts that under table 2.2 of the report. Now, this is the table which would not be visible to you so much. They talked about Payband 1 to Payband 2, and all fixations that was to be done under the grade which is there. Now, we look at the formula for fixation, which is more important. Generally, the following formula has been adopted to work out the revised pay, though this is not universal. Your existing basic pay, that was, given a multiplier of 1.74, rounded off to the nearest 10, that became the new basic. For example, if you look at the basic pay of 8,000, right? If it was 8,000, that was the basic pay earlier, what would be the new grade that was being worked out? What was the new grade? They had a multiplier, and with multiplier, they added that 8,000 rupees. So that became 19,200 as the grades if you add it, but that was not there. This 8,000 simply was being multiplied by 1.74, and that will come down to 13,920. It was upgraded to 15,600. That was the position that came up. We also find that the multiplication factor of 1.74 is adopted considering 50% DP and 24% DA. What is DP? Anybody knows what is DP? What is DP?
DNSP.
No, DP I'm talking about. This says 50% DP and 24% DA. DA we all know is dearness allowance. What is DP? See, the rule under the Fifth Pay Commission was that once the DA reaches 50%, that will be designated separately and will be added to the basic for calculation of DA, and it was called dearness pay, right? So they had a basic, say for example 8,000 basic was there, 4,000 would be the DP, so that became 12,000, and DA that was to be calculated, that was there. So that they had that 50% and 24% of DA, that became 74% as on 1/1/2006. Since we were getting DA on DP, it should have been 1.86 instead of 1.74, but the government did some kind of cleverness and did not give that extra. They remained at 1.74 as the multiplier, right? That he called the multiplier. The Commission has given their explanation for adopting the multiplying factor of 1.4 instead of 1.6 in the report itself. The government regarded 50% of DA with basic pay and DP with effect from 1/4/2004, and dearness allowance even thereafter was constituted to be calculated with reference to All India Consumer Price Index. For industrial workers, average of 306.33 and from 1/1/2006 without changing the base to average index and therefore they gave the justification. The formula for fixation of grade was like this. The grade pay equal to maximum of scale, that was multiplied by 40%, rounded off to the nearest 100. And the two scales were merged. The maximum of the largest scale is considered. They further said that the minimum salary at pay band 1 should not be less than 4,860 plus 1,800 of grade pay. That would be 6,660, considering the units, and maximum for cabinet secretary equivalent of 19,000 per month, which is given in table 1 13.5, increase from 1:11.6 in fifth central pay commission, instead of reducing this gap in a socialistic society that we are. Even post-barring secretary equivalent and joint secretary equivalent has a grade pay attached to it. Grade pay determines the status of the post, with senior post given, and an annual increment, that is of 2.5%, was to be given on the basic pay plus the grade pay. Another form of variable increment was given to grade 1 officer under pay band 2 and pay band 3, wherein 20% of high performance will be given increment at higher rate, that was 3.5 instead of 2.5. And government advised to extend this scheme to pay band 1 and pay band 2 as well. That is, somebody is producing more, the percentage specified should be given a higher grade. That is, the 20% of employees should be given higher grade, although in practice it was not followed. Allowances were to be based on grade pay, and allowances will increase by 25% when DA increases by 50%. That is what they recommended. And a person is stagnating at the maximum of pay scale for more than a year continuously will be placed in the next grade. That was there. A DA was calculated with a reference to All India Consumer Price Index for industrial workers. The percentage increase is calculated from index of January 1996, which was considered to be the base year, as 306.33. That is 1982 was the base year formula adopted for this particular thing. Before merger of DA, 12 months average index was considered. And we also find that average merger of DA for 12, this was having a multiplier that they tried and fixed up. Now let us look at what was the dearness allowance. To switch over the chain-based technique in calculation of index for inflation, the Sixth Pay Commission has recommended that National Statistical Commission be asked to make a survey covering government employee and construct a consumption basket representative of government employees and consider as to what it should be at that they have to be given. Now, the allowances that was to be given, which was also given in past, the first allowance is called house rent allowance, or HRA, as it is popularly known as. They said that the cities would be classified. So those having a population of 50 lakhs and above will be graded as X class city, earlier classified as A1 city. 5 lakh and below 50 lakh will be Y grade city, earlier called as A, B1 and B2 cities. And cities and towns having population below 5 lakhs will be called as Z class city, which was earlier known as C class city. And they said that for X class city, 30% of basic pay will be given as DA, house rent allowance. For grade Y city, it will be 20%, and for city called Z category city will be given 10%. What about for the rural areas? The rural areas, if it was to be given, at a 5% that they worked out. Now, similarly, all metropolitan cities and all cities which were, having population of 50 lakhs and above were given 30% of basic. So Delhi, Kolkata, Mumbai, etc., were falling under this category. There were some more, larger cities like Hyderabad, Lucknow, and other places were having this particular percentage. And cities like Aligarh, Ghaziabad, etc., were having 20%, and the smaller cities were having, or towns were having 10% of the house rent allowances. There were some more allowances that was admissible. The second allowance is transport allowance. Employee drawing grade pay of A1 and A class cities earlier, and that is those having drawing a grade pay of 5,200 were given, who are 3,200 plus DA thereon, was in other cities that was to be given 1,600 plus DA. So metropolitan cities 3,200 plus DA, and for Y class city it will be 1,600. For the other category, they said where 4,200 to 4,800 was the basic pay, they were to be given 1,600 is metropolitan with DA thereon, and for other cities it was to be given 800 plus DA thereon. And where whoever having the grade pay of 4,200 or below were to be given 400 plus DA thereon, and rupees 300 and DA thereon. That was the transport allowance. The restriction of 1 kilometer distance from place of residence to the office was initially recommended, but later on it was lifted. They said that there is no compulsion that you cannot live within 1 kilometer vicinity of the office. For physically handicapped, the rates were double, and in case less than rupees 1,000, in no case it would be less than 1,000 plus DA thereon. We further find that officers in B4 cities were given a higher DA that was admissible. We also have got allowances, which is called travel entitlement while on tours and travels. Employee drawing the grade pay of 9,000 and above were allowed J class air ticket or AC first class in train. This was also added that those AC first class, if they were to travel in, say, Rajdhani Express, they can travel in AC2 of Rajdhani. Those drawing the grade pay of 6,600 to 8,400 were allowed Y class by air and AC first class in train or AC3 in Rajdhani. Those drawing 5,400 to 6,500 were also allowed Y class by air. AC2 tier in train were not allowed to travel by Rajdhani. Rupees 4,200 to rupees 4,800 AC2 tier in train, that was there, and less than 4,200 were allowed first class or AC3 tier or AC chair car by train. That was when they were on tours and travels. No change for travel outside India was being made. In case of road travel between places not connected by rail, by any means of public transport is allowed, provided the fare by train for class entitled is not exceeding the amount they are charging. We also find that 6th Pay Commission has entitlement of daily allowances that was to be paid. Apart from travel, of course, they have got to have the daily allowances and hotel expenses. Those drawing 9,000 and above as their basic pay were entitled for hotel expenses of up to rupees 5,000 per day, and taxi charges up to 50 kilometers travel within the city, that was there, and food bills of rupees 500 per day. Those drawing 6,600 to 8,400 were given hotel expenses of 3,000, non-AC taxi 50 kilometers and 300 per day for food expenses. 5,400 to 6,500 were given 1,500 per day as hotel expenses, 150 per day as the local travel, and 200 per day as food. 4,200 to 4,800 were to be given 500, 100, and 150. Less than 4,200 were given 300, 550, and 100 rupees. Now, this was initially the thing, but later on, as inflation increased, they said that this should, you could not have hotel for 5,000 rupees because the rates of hotel were upgraded to 7,500 rupees. So they said that you will be given any extra amount that is there, up to 7,500 will be reimbursed upon production of bills. And similarly, they also talked about food expenses on actual but not exceeding 1,250 rupees that was there in the first category. And likewise, it was scaled down for the lower category in terms of these expenses. We further find that entitlement of transport, that is, if somebody is being transferred, they said that those in the grade of 6,600 and above were allowed 6,000 kilograms by goods train, four-wheeler wagon, one double container that was allowed, and rate was that they will be given 18 rupees per kilometer of charges or 30 paise per quintal per kilometer, whichever is less. For 4,200 to 6,500, 6,000 kilograms of by goods train, four-wheeler wagon, or one single container, not two. Double container was not allowed here. And they were also given 1,800 rupees per kilometer and 30 paise per quintal per kilometer, whichever is less in calculation. Rupees 200 and 2,800 rupees, they will be given fixed 3,000 kilograms of goods they can transfer, but the rate was reduced to 9 rupees per kilometer or 30 paise per kilometer per quintal, whichever is less. And below 2,800, they were given fixed 1,500 kilograms, and the rates were 4 rupees 60 paise per kilometer and 30 paise per quintal per kilometer, whichever is less, that was being given. Existing restriction that road transport cannot exceed rail cost by more than 1.25 times was lifted here. And Andaman, Nicobar, and Lakshadweep and remote areas were not covered by this. The rates of hill area, bad climate, tribal allowances per month was this. Employee drawing grade pay of 5,400 and above was given a hill allowance of 400 rupees and bad climate allowance of 600 rupees per month. Other posts were given 240 and 480 per month as bad climate and hill allowances. The rates of remote locality allowances per month was also given. The employee in part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4, that is A, B, C, D, 5,400 and above were given 2,600 rupees, 2,100 rupees, 1,500 and 400. Other posts were having 2,000, 1,600, 1,200 and 320 rupees as the remote locality allowances that was there. As I mentioned that Lakshadweep and other places were covered by this. An education allowance that was to be given to the children. They said that maximum of 1,000 rupees per month per child up to 2 children would be given. The first 2 children would be paid this per month as their education allowances. And they further said that there was insurance of Payband 1, 5 lakhs, Payband 2, 7 lakhs, and Payband 3, 10 lakhs that was to be given. Amount of insurance to be increased to 50% once DA increases to 50%. Additional health checkup was also being recommended under this particular category. They talked about hostel subsidy if the children, the 2 children of the employee was living in a hostel, the allowance was given of 3,000 rupees per month per child up to 2 children that was there. And Wherever risk was involved, this insurance was to be operative. We also find that allowances were called non-practicing allowance, 25% of aggregate of basic pay and grade pay subject to the condition that basic pay and NPA does not exceed rupees 8,500. So all doctors and all professionals who could practice otherwise were not allowed to practice. And they said that you will be given 25%, of existing basic as your non-practicing allowance, and all D and other things will be calculated on that. They also talked about a deputation allowance if some employee was posted on deputation, that continue to be 5%, 10%, and 15% of the grade pay, without any pecuniary limits, but the aggregate of pay allowances should not exceed 39,200, being the maximum pay in the pay band 4 that they talked about. Other allowances were cycle allowance to be given to PNs and other people, rupees 30 per month and rupees 60 per month. Washing allowances, whosoever were providing with the uniform of 30 rupees per month and 60 rupees per month was to be given. They also talked about all other allowances to be doubled, which was given earlier under the Fifth Pay Commission. The overtime, the Fifth Pay Commission had recommended abolition of overtime for all category of employee that was retained. And now the Sixth Pay Commission has also recommended that no overtime will be paid. That is there. Bonuses, productivity-linked bonuses will be given to the employee as per rules which was there. And in no case it will exceed 84 days. Wages. Government offices to be closed only 3 national holidays. That is the Republic Day, Independence Day, and birthday of the Father of the Nation. We also talked about restricted holidays to be increased to 8, that was there, and head of the department had the power to declare office closed to a maximum of 2 restricted holidays in a year on local considerations, which was there. In certain areas, if it was 8, they could increase it to 10. The leaves called CA, LAP, and HLAP remain unchanged. They also talked about 12 CLs for physically challenged people as against 8 to others. HLAP now allowances of railway school staff was being given. The advances, all interest, pre-advances to be doubled. That was given earlier. Advances to typewriters being outdated, and table fans available only for grade D employee, which is now gradually abolished. And instead of typewriter, they were now given the desktop allowance you could buy. The advances for bicycle and clothing, which were not interest-free now, to be made interest-free. So those employee who wants a cycle, they can have it, or clothing. The advances which are not interest-free to be dispensed henceforth, and government should enter into agreement with leading PSU banks to extend the facilities to the employee which were there. Facilities for women employees, suggested working hours, giving flexibility to work early or late under this scheme. 11 hours to 16 hours will be the core working hours, during which all women employees should be present. They will have the option of either coming up to 1.5 hours earlier or leaving the office 2 hours late, depending upon the actual time they have clocked. Child care leave of 2 years was added. That is 732 days for children, up to 2 children, but they should be less than 18 years of age. Before they attain 18 years of age, the women employee could avail 2 years of leave, but not in single installment. Maternity leave was increased from 135 days, which was earlier, to 180 days for up to 2 children. That was paid leave, but there was no restriction for the number of children that could be paid for more employees, right? We also find that service conduct rule for protection of women was also being given. There were also given facilities for handicapped employees that we will continue with in the next term. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It was a great interaction.